welcome back to another fantastic episode of the podcast. On today's show, we're going to have recording artist, motorcycle enthusiast, and U.S. veteran Jenny Grace. So before we jump into this exciting episode that you don't want to miss, we're going to hear a word from today's sponsor. Are you looking for clean energy without jitters and bad side effects? No sugar, artificial sweeteners, or preservatives? With a good source of energy from green tea and B12? Then look no further. Make sure you visit pureboost.com and check them out today. We use this every day. It's our drink of choice to give us that good pick-me-up in the morning.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today we have a very, very special episode for you. We have a special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jenny Grace. I'm a singer-songwriter based out of Nashville.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the music industry.
Sure. So I have always been a writer since I was a child, but I didn't really want to go to school for writing or anything like that. So I decided to kind of like take a freelance approach to it. And only recently have I been doing some professional stuff since 2019, such as opening for big artists and having some of my songs placed in movies and stuff like that. So
very cool. So tell us about the journey to where you are now. What was that like? And was it rough to kind of transition into being a recording artist?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you can't just be taught this stuff, and you can't also, you can't really do it either. Like, you do have to have some mentoring. You can't just like go into it. It's an acquired thing. You can sing if you're born to sing, that's fine. But there's so many other things you have to do. And there's some grooming that's involved, to be able to compete with a commercial radio these days. So, I mean, that took me a long time. When I first came out, I was very folk kind of and, kind of indie when I was in college a couple of years ago. So only recently did I realize what it takes to be commercial and what's going to be a hit song, what's not going to be a hit song and stuff like that. So it's a process.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine just being from the, on the outside of things, seeing, obviously as general public, you only see the finished product. You don't see the journey of what it takes to make a single, and much less make a single that's going to chart well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
So what is that process like for you as far as being able to create the music and then have the lyrics go with the music? Is it one versus the other easier? Or?
Well, it just depends. I have a co-writer sometimes that I work with that will send me compositions and then I will write lyrics to that, or I will hear melodies in my head and then I'll have to construct a whole song around it. Like I'll have to compose the guitar, the piano, and usually I do the compositions more than co-writing. So it's kind of like, a whole composition, like the way traditional people used to write music,
So as far as in your writing career, did you always write music, or was it, other things that you like to write?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I was always good at writing, like my stuff would stand out, like my teachers would notice. But I just didn't really see a way to pursue it because most of the writers that we hear about, Ernest Hemingway, all these people, I don't think they majored in creative writing. I think they just kind of like were living their lives. So, I realized there wasn't a lot of money in the arts, so I didn't even major in it. I actually majored in engineering at school, and I just thought, it's going to take some real life experience for me to get the good stuff out. So I wasn't going to force it. And then, a lot of the good stuff came out a couple of years ago just from life experience, not because I went to school, not because I learned how to write, just kind of like you had to feel the stuff to be able to write good. So.
Yeah, and the life experiences are always the best things to write about, whether it be music or just books in general, articles, things like that, because I feel like people can relate to that.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. You know, you have to have that experience. I think a lot of people go to Berklee College of Music and stuff, and they expect to become prodigies and just become famous overnight, but it's not going to happen that way. You might get a technical skill, but if you want to create great art, you know, you have to like live through this stuff. The great writers ever, they had like hard lives. Loretta Lynn, like she had a really hard life, and I didn't, you know, come from money either, so my life was pretty difficult growing up. So it's like, I think that struggle makes you a better artist, you know. So
yeah, exactly. And it's the end result of what you're creating is more relatable to the mass.
absolutely.
So, as far as becoming a recording artist, did you have anybody that you took inspiration from or that you looked up to as far as, recording artists or people who write for recording artists or anything like that?
Yes. So, you know, I really have liked an eclectic group of people. Growing up, my parents listened to Led Zeppelin. They listened to Loretta Lynn. They listened to Randy Travis, all the classics. So I kind of grew up with that background and really looked up to them because I know Patsy Cline, even her stuff, you know, she was one of the greatest singers of country music. And you don't think she's that great. She doesn't do all the crazy like runs, like the pop runs singing, but to have that control that she had for those low, you know, songs and that alto range is actually a lot of control, and they didn't even have auto-tune back then. So you really have to look at those people and be like appreciating how good they were. And that's when I started to get into country music in my early 20s, because I was just like, okay, that's the real storytellers and that's where the great singers are. So I want to go to country music because I think it's so authentic and it's so enduring, right? Like we still listen to Patsy Cline. So I really like that about that genre.
So as far as the country music genre, there are so many greats out there, and you're right. When you hear artists of the past, especially, we do have some in today's culture where if you listen to them live, they sound just like they do on the album, which is it takes a tremendous amount of talent to do
Absolutely.
that. As far as I know, in the message you sent me earlier that we're going to cut to a clip here in a little bit of your new single. What was that process like to start creating your first album, and what went into the single that we're going to play here in a little bit?
Yeah, so I went through a lot as far as 2020 had happened and all these things, and I realized that in the past, in 2018, when I had my first album, I was kind of I had a manager at the time that wanted me to be a certain thing, and I was listening to what he wanted. And, then 2019 came around and I was kind of writing for what I thought would be good for country radio. And, people thought it was great, but to me, I was like, this is not great because it's not authentic. So it was only till the year 2022, early this year, that I started really writing from my heart and not caring what anybody thought, not caring if it's commercial. And actually, I've heard from pretty prominent songwriters that the stuff that I wrote this year is the best I've ever written. So I guess, you can't really do things for other people. You got to do it for yourself, and you got to listen to your own heart. You can't listen to other people. So that's what went into this album, and the song Ghost that you're going to play. That song was based on a true experience and, really raw, like just the stories out there. And, I've been told I'm kind of like a storyteller type of songwriter. So I think that kind of came out, and that's one example on that song Ghost. So.
Very cool. So we're gonna cut to a clip of that here in just a second, and take a look at it. I think I've listened to bits and pieces of it, getting ready for the interview, and I can tell you that it's a very, very well written piece, and it's one of those that I feel like just resonates with me personally, and I think that will with the audience who's going to see this as well.
you think it would be easy to pretend you don't care, to forget about our past and hide away in your fear? You know you were never the same when you saw me for the first time. And the years go by, you live in denial. And how's it feel when they still bring up my name? I haunt you day and night. I'll follow you around this town. Though you try to run and hide, in your eyes the truth is found. And even though you made me a ghost and something inside me died, well baby I never felt so alive. Well, does she know about the games you play when you're sitting there alone and pretending to read? And when she asks about me, do you tell her I'm an old flame? You know she was never the same when she saw us for the first time. And the years go by, you stay in denial. And how's it feel when she still brings up my name? I'll haunt you day and night. I'll follow you around this town. Though you try to run and hide, in your eyes the truth is found. And even though you made me your ghost, something inside me died. Well, baby, I never felt so when you see what you lost and you wanna run to me, I won't be there, oh no, 'cause I set myself free. I'll haunt you day and night. I'll follow you around this town. Though you try to run and hide, in your eyes the truth is found. And even though you made me your ghost, and something inside me died, but baby I never felt so
And so, as far as some of the other stuff that you've written on the album, would you say the best things come from, not only life experiences, but come from yourself personally, from the heart?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is the first couple of songs that I really just threw everything on paper that I was feeling for so many years. I kept bottled up. And, you can look at anybody that writes these days, like Taylor Swift. She really is an example of that. And she's never held back from day one. She wrote exactly how she felt, and it got her as far as she did. So, I take her as somebody I really look up to for her writing, because she's not anybody. She never listened to anybody. She kind of just did her own thing. And it's so authentic. That's why people like her, because her stuff, you could tell it's just coming from her heart. Even if it's controversial, she still writes about it. And I think that's so great, So some people are not brave enough to do that. They just would rather be cool and be like, oh, I'm not going to show my vulnerable side. But,
Yeah, you have to be authentically yourself in everything that you do, whether it be, the music industry or, for us regular people, just normal jobs, but you just gotta be you and not be apologetic about being yourself.
Absolutely.
So what does the future look like for you? Or do you have more songs you're working on for the album?
Yeah, so I have another song coming out in February of 2023, and that is going to be produced in Nashville. It's kind of in the studio now, and we have a video for that. So kind of like every 2 months, I'm going to be releasing some more songs off the album and just kind of getting my stuff out there. And, you know, the long-term goal is to get signed to a major label in Nashville and start, you know, being part of that whole clique. Unfortunately, you have to be, right, if you want to, you know, become commercial and get your music even further. And there's a lot of great labels out there in Nashville that I would love to work with, and I'm in talks with. So, you know, it's just going to take some time, but I think I'm ready now. Because I've been working at this a long time, you know. I mean, it's been years. When I was in college, since I was in college, like I said, and even before that, so.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, like most things, you got to love what you do. And if you do, it's not work. It's just fun. You know, especially getting paid to do what you love to do. I mean, there's no better feeling than that.
I totally agree.
So, as far as where people can go to find the songs you have out now, are you on Spotify or anything like that?
Yes, I am on Spotify. You can look up Jenny Grace. And then, you know, JennyGraceMusic.com is my website. Jenny Grace Official is Instagram, and Jenny Grace Official is Facebook, and Jenny Grace Official is TikTok. So I'm pretty much the only Jenny Grace singer out there. There is an actor named Jenny Grace, but we don't look alike, so you'll be able to tell the difference. So.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. You know, it sounds like the future is going to be very bright for you, which is, you know, all anybody wants is to be successful in whatever they do. And, you know, I think you're a very, very talented artist, and look forward to see great things to come in the future.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, and you have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.